Thank you so much for joining us today on Playing the Field. I'm Maria Serrao. We're going to try something just a little bit different today in studio, maybe a little podcasty, if you will. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with lots of sports talk. Okay, we are back, and I have to honestly tell you that I'm so glad NFL free agency has started because I was getting like football withdrawals on Sunday. Seriously, I would wake up on Sunday morning and I would start to get lost in the day. And I realized it was because there was no NFL pregame show. Normally, yes, I would go to a game on Sunday, but the rare times I was home, I had games on. Then, of course, you come back from a game and you watch the late game on Sunday night. And yeah, look, I'm a football geek, I admit it. And I really miss it. So free agency, I'm all over it. And let's get right to it. There's nothing else to watch right now. But baseball is started. So maybe you were up in the middle of the night watching the Dodgers game for the last two nights. I did it the first night. I have to admit, I was kind of waking up and going back to sleep, but I did have to watch. So really glad. We're going to talk about baseball. I did go to spring training, and that was very interesting with the Angels and the Dodgers. Two very different camps, to say the least. So we're going to talk about that. But let's start with Sunday. Let's start with football Sundays because the free agency is crazy right now. And we'll start with the Rams. Now, the Rams did re-sign Matthew Stafford, Les Snead, and head coach Sean McVay telling us that they're going to give Matthew Stafford the right after each season because he's earned it. And yes, he's a little older to decide whether he wants to still play football, whether he wants to come back. They worked it out. He wants to stay, and so he is locked in. He will be a Ram. And his backup quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, he is staying as well. And one of the reporters asked him, there were lots of opportunities. He could have gone to another team and maybe started. But he said at this stage of the game, he is very happy at the Rams. He loves the locker room. He loves Sean. Sean loves him. And he just said, yeah, there's just like gnats flying around. But he said that he's happy to stay at the Rams. They're paying him pretty well to be a backup as well. So, you know what? Sometimes, as he said, sometimes being happy is more important than other things. And he has had a long football career. So, hey, we're glad to have Jimmy back. And everybody else at the Rams is very happy about that as well. So let's jump into some of the players that are not there right now. And this was a little surprising to me. Some of the defensive players are not there, like Christian Roseboom and Bobby Brown Jr. and Michael Hoyt. Now, they have replaced some of those guys, which is good. Jared Verse, of course, is still there. And they did get another defensive player, was Poona Ford from the Chargers. And he will make a huge difference. But I was a little surprised at those other guys leaving. So, I guess you have to kind of see where all the chips are falling. People are still coming in. And I don't think the Rams are done. But the big move for the Rams was that they got wide receiver Davante Adams. Everybody wanted Davante Adams. And, of course, the story that Cooper Kupp was not going to return with the Rams was a huge deal because he has been a Ram his whole career. They loved him. He was a Ram. He was the we, not me mentality. So for them to not try to find a way to keep Cooper was a little bit of a shock to a lot of Ram fans and a lot of media people. We were kind of surprised that they didn't just find a way to make it all work. But Cooper's happy. He went to the Seattle Seahawks. He's from that area, so he's kind of settled in there. And now Davante Adams, who is a huge star, he's a Ram. And it was interesting when we talked to Davante because he said that he was in Japan and Sean McVay was calling him constantly on the phone. He said, I talked to the coach more than I was talking to my wife on the trip. So that just goes to show you when Sean's excited, which he was very excited about getting Davante Adams, that he was on the phone with him and they made it happen. So Davante Adams is now a Ram, and I'm going to tell you a very funny story about that. So we're with him, and he's, we're doing a little presser, and he's got a very cool Dodgers championship hat on. So at the end, I said, hey, so will we be seeing you at lots of Dodger games? I figured he was a big fan. He said, well, actually, I'm one of those, what is it called? Like when you jump on a team, we're all like a bandwagon fan. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of a bandwagon fan. So maybe we'll see him at some Dodger games, but he was sporting a very cool Dodger championship hat. So welcome Davante Adams to the Rams, and there's going to be lots of things going on there. Now, moving on to the Chargers, they've been kind of quiet. They are keeping Khalil Mack, which is good. The one big loss is Joey Bosa, who went to Buffalo. I thought he was going to maybe go to San Francisco to join forces with his brother, but he's not. He's going to Buffalo. I also thought maybe they would be in the Cooper Kupp sweepstakes because Cooper could have just stayed in LA and went to the other side, but that did not happen. I just think that Justin Herbert is in such need of a wide receiver. I mean, Ladd McConkey did great last year, and they did bring back Mike Williams, which I just think they need somebody else. Mike was great in college, but he didn't translate very well to the NFL, and I think that's why the Chargers got rid of him the first time. He was always injured. So I don't know what to tell you. All I can say is I hope that Ladd McConkey gets better. Maybe Mike Williams will be good this year because, gosh, wouldn't we all just like to see Justin Herbert just air that ball out to a great wide receiver? I know that head coach would like that as well. So, I guess we're just going to have to see how it goes. But that's basically what the Chargers have done. They did bring in Najee Harris for a running back, and that's good. I think I've had him on every fantasy team I have ever had. So that should be good as well. And, for both of the teams, for the Rams and for the Chargers, we'll see what they do in the draft. They all have quite a few draft picks. So maybe they're going to address some of their needs, or they're hoping to in the draft as well. Okay, let's move on to baseball because the baseball season has officially started. The Dodgers won their first 2 games against the Cubs in Japan. They will come back for 3 against the Angels, which is always weird because they come back and then they play 3 more spring training games before they open the season. So, that's the way it goes. Now, the Dodgers, of course, it's back-to-back. They want to win back-to-back World Series. It's very, very difficult. The last time anybody did that was the Yankees, and of course, the Dodgers beat the Yankees last season. So we'll see what happens this year. But the big story was bringing back the Hernandez brothers. Not real brothers, but Kike Hernandez and, of course, Oscar Hernandez are back in Dodger blue. That was kind of a weird thing, especially for Teoscar. They didn't get it done right away, but both of the Hernandezes are in Dodger blue, and really, they have kept this team together. They also got Michael Conforto, who's a little older. He's 32. He's coming off of a shoulder surgery, but he's always been a really good player, and so we will see how that works out. Now, I was in spring training once with the Dodgers and with the Angels, and they're 2 very different atmospheres, to say the least. In Dodger camp, there are about 50 Japanese media and maybe 10 and 20 American media. So it's very busy. It's very hectic every day when you're there. When you go to the Angels, it's a very different atmosphere, to say the least. There were 4 media people there. And so you have a lot more time. You have a lot, as a media person, I have to say, I welcomed it because we had a lot more time with the manager, a lot more time with the players, but it's just very, very, very different. So one's a more quiet camp, one's a more hectic camp. Of course, the Dodgers also have Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Clayton Kershaw, and they do have a lot of big stars there. At the Angels, you've got Mike Trout. So it is a very different atmosphere, to say the least. Now, I can tell you that something very exciting that's going on with the Angels, and the day that I got there, Albert Pujols was there. Vladimir Guerrero was there. And I wasn't there when Torrey Hunter was there, but they're bringing in very big former players who are working with some of these younger guys. And in the case of Albert, it's pretty exciting because he has been working to become a manager. He was with the team in the Dominican Republic who won the championship. He was their manager. He also told us that he will be the manager for the Dominican in the World Baseball Classic next year. And he also shared with us that he wants to manage in Major League Baseball. That is his goal. The same with Torrey Hunter, who told me that last year. He wants to be a manager in Major League Baseball. So very exciting. And how cool is it if you're a player to have guys like Albert and Vladdy and Torrey hanging out with you every day, giving you insights that, you know, you can't really get anywhere else. And I have to tell you that manager Ron Washington welcomes it. He said that he can't think of anything better. He said the amount of advice, the amount of knowledge that all of these veterans have, he said, it's immeasurable. So that should really help the Angels. I mean, I think it's going to help the Angels out a tremendous amount this year. They've got a lot of really young, good players. Trouty is fantastic, sharing information as well. He is healthy. We're hoping he has a super good year because he's such a great guy. And of course, we all want to see Mike Trout in a playoff game. We want to see the Angels succeeding. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope that they can get there this season because, gosh, we really all want to see that happen, and that's for sure. Now, Dave Roberts is also a great manager. We love talking to Dave. And, you know, Dave did something last year that I have to give him props for, and a lot of people don't talk about it, but at the beginning of the year, and I think throughout the year, he barely had two healthy pitchers all through the season. How they won the World Series with the team that they did, I think, was because Dave really went to the players and said, I want you guys to spend time together. And that was a huge thing for them all year. So they did. They spent time when they were on the road, at dinners, just really getting to know each other and bond. So I think that had a tremendous amount to do with their success last year. And hopefully it will have a tremendous success to do this year as well. You know, everybody seems very together in that locker room, besides the chaos that's going on. So it's going to be exciting. You know, I think that we just have to wait and see how this is all going to, you know, all going to come out in the end. But now they've got, you know, a full boat of healthy pitchers at the Dodgers. You know, it never ever really stays that way. I don't think on any team, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed that it just might work out for the Dodgers and the Angels as well. And also, in case you did not hear, Anthony Rendon for the Angels, he had hip surgery. He was not in spring training. He did not have a locker there. And I used to do a segment called You Have to Give the Money Back. And I think that Anthony Rendon, I'm going to call you out. I think that for the amount of time you played in games for the Los Angeles Angels, you have to give some of the money back because we probably won't see you much this year. We haven't seen you much in past years. And come on, dude, like, really. I mean, I think you have to write Artie a check. But just my opinion. I'm just throwing it out there. Don't plan to see Anthony Rendon at the Angels anytime soon. Now, you've been listening to hearing me talk enough. We're going to take a very quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to the players that I talked to. You're going to see the players that I talked to in spring training. So don't go anywhere. You're watching Play in the Field. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and so is baseball. Now, while I was in Arizona with the Angels and the Dodgers, I had a chance to catch up with the players, the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, I can say. And I got to sit down with Anthony Banda, who is a pitcher for the Dodgers who his fame level went crazy last year. He is a fan favorite, but it has not changed him one bit that he is now a World Series champion. So let's catch up with Anthony Banda. We are here with Anthony Banda in spring training. After reading about you, you've had the opportunity to be all over the league. What is it like to see and to touch so many different locker rooms?
It's unique in the sense of, just trying to find somewhere where you fit. I always compare it to going to a new school, transferring from school to school, as far as kids to kind of get under an understanding of what it feels like. Every time you step in a new locker room, you're trying to break that ice, trying to get as comfortable as you can. Along the way, I've met a lot of great people. A lot of people have helped me along the way. So as I've continued going, traveling and being somewhat the journeyman, they say, I was just trying to find the right flow, the right coaching, and then put the best product on the field, really. It's kind of hard in a sense of trying to have that confidence going into a new locker room, but overall, just being in the game for a little longer than most, it's in the sense of like getting to know everybody. You see familiar faces from other teams and stuff like that, so that helps out a little bit too to break that ice. But it is unique. I don't recommend it.
Is it hard?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Is it hard to, on one hand, okay, you're moving on to a different place. On the other hand, somebody else wants you.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that fine line of understanding the pros and cons of it, but I just try to stay focused on what I need to do and how to get better, and I'm always open to trying to get better. I always thought that, I had the stuff to be a big leaguer. It was just something missing. So I was on that journey of finding that missing piece to really, really put everything together. And it seemed like I found that last year with talking with the pitching coaches and developing a new slider. So that helped a lot. It was a lot of fun to really go through that. I was really excited when I had gotten told I was coming to the Dodgers, just because of, from the outside hearing, that they develop left-handed pitching very well. Obviously, you got Hall of Famers here, and you got a bunch of studs, young studs coming. So, and they just happen to be left-handed. So they have an understanding of what it is to communicate with players on different levels, different terms. So I was really, really excited about that coming over here.
This is such a special locker room, but you have fit right in. Did you feel that right away?
Yeah, it was weird. Obviously it was intimidating at first. I was on the flight over here, and I was like, man, I was thinking about all the guys, Freddie, Mookie, Kershaw, Ohtani, all the big studs, and it's just like, what? How is it gonna,
How is this gonna turn out?
Yeah, what's the culture like, and everything else like that. But as soon as I walked in, everybody was like, hey, man, it was as if they knew me for many years. They greeted me with such open arms, and welcoming was just unbelievable. So it made me feel very comfortable right out the gate. And then there, I remember asking Evan Phillips, I was like, hey, man, how is it here? He's like, oh, dude, just be yourself. Just be yourself, and I promise you everything's going to work out. And then it just so happened to find out that when I went to go meet Doc for the first time, that was one of the big messages of, he likes smart baseball players, and just be yourself. That's the culture around here. That way, you can fit in and just be comfortable within your own skin, and not, because it's already hard enough out there as it is. So them giving me those types of messages and stuff like that, it was such a complete icebreaker, and it made me feel so welcomed. And I was like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to I'm just itching to just get out there and just learn and get as much information as I can about myself. What I do well, what I don't do well. And so it was just the questions were flying out of my mouth into right on Connor and the assistant pitching coach. And I mean, he helped me turn my career around. Really, he did.
It's kind of amazing when you think about the way, of course, the season ended with the World Series victory. Do you look back on that right now and kind of be like, wow, we did that? Because it's got to be such a blur when you think back to that last month.
Yeah, it was a blur. It was exhausting. It was mentally exhausting. I've never felt that strain of mentality throughout my entire life. And it's just a different level. It's hard to explain. I'd much rather people, just try to have a grasp of what it's like to just get in a situation like that, where you're in the World Series, you're fight or flight 24/7. At least I was. but it was mentally exhausting. It really was, and I didn't feel it until it was over. Obviously going through the series and everything else like that, I was really focused on what I needed to do, what I needed to do for my teammates and for that bullpen. And I realized, going into the playoffs, how important we were as far as like we were going to carry majority of it just because of the injuries, and we were going to have bullpen days. And so like we were like mentally getting ready for all of that. And then, it was like a sprint. It was like a big sprint towards the end, and just happy that we got to the end of it and we were the last man standing, and it was awesome.
How do you sort of compartmentalize that now and say, okay, it's a new year, it's a new season, but we are the champs still?
Gotta do it again. Gotta do it again.
Back to back.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, I remember I was sitting at home and I was like, man, now what? And it was funny because I was watching the Aaron Rodgers documentary that they have on Netflix, and then he was talking about how after he won his first Super Bowl, and he felt the same way in the sense of like, he voiced it like the way I did, and I was like, well, now what? And he said, it literally says in the documentary, he's like, well, we got to go win another one. And so it's almost like you get to the peak of it, and then after, when you come back and we're in the setting, the baseball setting again, we realize, all right, it's all washed, it's all done. Now we got to go back and do it again. Let's go do it again, and let's create something where it's become a dynasty or something. But right now it's focused on staying healthy throughout the season, stacking those W's, continue being consistent, and just moving forward, and learn from the downs and celebrate the ups, but continue moving forward throughout the season. Staying healthy is the most important part.
Lastly, the Dodger fans have embraced you. What does that feel like to feel so much love from them?
I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. I'm grateful for it. It's amazing. I never even thought of any of this happening. But I've been so blessed and had the opportunity to meet a lot of good people, to interact with the fans. I know what it's like to be a fan, and try to talk to a baseball player that you see and you enjoy watching play. And I just think that it's pretty cool to, like, if I can interact with kids and fans that are super fans and just have a conversation with them, that goes longer than anything else. So I'm no bigger than the game. I'm no better than anybody else, as far as like a better person, or I'm above anybody. I don't look at myself that way. I'm a very greeting person. I try to, I was raised that way. So it was something where it's like, the fans, I've met a lot of good people, and it's been great. And I'm looking forward to meeting more. And I don't have a problem with just chit-chatting for a few minutes, signing a few things. Like I said, like, it makes their day. So that's where I get the most gratification from. And I appreciate everything that they do for us. So why not give back,
It was such a pleasure to really sit with Anthony, get to know him a little bit better. So I hope you enjoyed the interview that we had. Now, if you've ever wondered who has thrown the fastest pitch in Major League Baseball, that belongs to Aroldis Chapman. He threw a baseball 105.8 miles an hour. Can you imagine that? Now, these are on record because there's a lot of rumors about how fast Nolan Ryan may have thrown a pitch back in the day, but nobody really wrote it down. So it belongs to Aroldis. Now, in college, it belongs to Ben Joyce, who I got to sit down with at the Los Angeles Angels. He threw the fastest pitch in college history at 105.5, so right behind Chapman. So let's get to know a little bit more with Ben Joyce.
You had the fastest pitch in college history, and really almost the fastest pitch in the major leagues. How do you sort of work up to something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long process for me. I mean, going into high school, I didn't throw hard. I never really have until I really hit a growth spurt my senior year of high school. So then I feel like it's just a product of the work that I've put in. So it's been a slow, long process. But I mean, I honestly never really did it because I wanted to be the hardest thrower in the world. I just did it because I wanted to play and produce on the mound, and ended up growing into my body and being able to throw hard. So it's been a long process, but it's been a fun one.
Was that surprising to you when you found out, wow, it was the hardest, it was the fastest?
Yes, it was. I mean, I remember the day in college specifically. It was it was a big series for us in the SEC, and just ended up feeling great that day. And I knew I was throwing hard. I didn't know it was that hard. And then hearing that, that's almost like floors you. You're like, wow, I can't believe that. Like I never saw that in the card. So it was that was a pretty surreal moment.
Yeah, it had to have been. What does your off season look like, and what is your training program?
Yeah, it's for me. It's every offseason I've tried to gain strength in a smart way. I feel like I've learned throughout my 3 off seasons that I can't do everything in one day. So it's planning that out in the right ways, but there's different phases of it. I feel like I start out really hitting the weight room hard and trying to make the gains in the beginning of the off season. And then as we go towards the season, it's more power, sport specific movement stuff. And throwing wise, it's just slowly ramping up to peak at the right time. And I want to peak when the season starts and then continue to peak for the whole season. So it's more of a maintenance thing.
Do you take time off right after, or not really?
From throwing, yes. From working out, no. That's even if I wasn't playing baseball, I work. That's just part of it at this point. I love working out. That's one of my favorite things to do. Whether it's, I honestly during the off season, I like to run a little bit too. So just kind of taking those first few weeks to do things I enjoy working out wise, and then get more into the baseball program after that.
So the club this year brings Kenley Jansen, and what can you learn from a veteran like Kenley?
Man, I feel like it's endless. Like it's already the few weeks that he's been here, I've just learned his mentality. It's when the gate opens and the bullpen comes out, he believes the game's over. Like he believes that we're going to win the game, whatever the situation is. And I think that mentality rubs off on the young guys that we have here. And just the way he approaches his day-to-day, his routines, he knows that he's put himself in a position to be ready to pitch at, I guess in the 9th inning, it's going to be 8:30 at night or whatever it might be. But he knows that he sets his day up where he's ready when his name's called. And just trying to take whatever I can from him, trying to be like a sponge, I guess, and just whether he's throwing a live, he's throwing a bullpen, he's throwing in a game, I'm trying to talk to him after. He might be getting annoyed with me, but he doesn't act.
I don't think so.
No, he doesn't act like it. He's been awesome, and I'm just excited for the season with him.
So you had a really, really good season last year, and how are you looking to build on that?
Yeah, just stay consistent. I think it's just what happened last year really doesn't mean anything. It's what can you do this year? So it's just staying consistent, staying healthy, and just learning every outing. I think I learned a lot last year, whether that was in spring training or AA, and then when I got called back up, I feel like I learned a lot. So it's just continuing to every day just get better, and I think just consistency.
Ron Washington was telling us that he sees all the hard work that's put in, and that's really what he wants from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's just how I grew up. That's my parents instilled that in me, and I've just kind of had a chip on my shoulder my whole life, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. So that's just really, I've always prided myself on that, like being the hardest worker wherever I am. And it's tough here. We got some guys that love it and work hard, but I think that's an awesome culture that we're trying to build right now.
Part of the game for sure, right?
Definitely, 100%.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we will look forward to catching up with you back in Anaheim.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And that was such a fun interview as well. And there's going to be many, many more fun interviews with the Angels and the Dodgers, of course, very, very soon. And we want to remind you that the Long Beach Grand Prix is turning 50 years old this year. I can't wait to get out there. There's going to be so much fun stuff going on. And I'm excited because you never know who's going to pop up in Long Beach at such a big anniversary, that's for sure. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Remember, you can watch Playing the Field 24/7 at playingthefieldtv.com. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Maria Serrao, and we'll see you next time.